especially because you do so much. I don't think I've ever seen it before. Yeah. It's less busy than other
Right, if you're standing at the back, there are some. Do you want a chair? Because there's some chairs, and there's some cushions at the front as well. Even it's just that it's going to be. Yeah, you just be more comfortable. It's a decent length talk. Yeah, we'll get you some chairs, don't worry. Do you want a couple of chairs each? Yeah, for you guys? You're okay standing? Get you a chair? Yeah, and one more chair as well. Just one more chair as well, Joe. Just make sure everyone's comfortable. Yeah, nice one. Brilliant. Yeah, we can put the chair there, that's fine. Sir, please. You've been upgraded from standing to seats. Free upgrade. Okay, very good. Good, so it's lovely to see everyone in here. I always appreciate it when it's full in here because it shows that this is where we're meant to be, this is where it's at. This is the place to be, and I think it's great, really, really great. We like to pack people in, and you've got an overspill outside, so fantastic. And so it's my great honour to introduce Vandanajyoti. Here she is.
Here.
Yeah,
you can talk about me.
Yeah, I can talk about you. Great, thank you. Vandanajyoti, her name, first of all, means light of worship. Yeah, come in. Her name means light of worship. So Vandana means worship, and Jyoti means light. And I've known Vandanajyoti for a long time and worked with her, particularly this year on retreat. We led the spring retreat together, and she really is someone who does radiate light, and particularly in her manner, she's very friendly, always very caring and loving, and very funny as well. She lightens the mood. If ever I was a bit down or a bit worried about something on retreat, she would just look at me and usually laugh a bit. And then
then he'd laugh too.
Yeah, so she's got a real gift, I think, for communicating light through her as well. from her. And actually, her gift doesn't just stop at words. She's also, in her previous life, was a music teacher. So music's very important to her, and I'm sure music will come up in this talk. It probably normally does in Vandanajyoti's talk. So she's a music teacher, but also uses music as a devotional practice to open up her heart and her mind to reality. That's what she does. She uses music, and she shares that with others as well, often. So I really love hearing your music. And yeah, also light of worship. So she's got a real wisdom about her. This is why we thought about this theme together, the real refuge, because I know that Vandanajyoti has been living a life of Dharma practice for, is it 40 years now?
Not quite.
Nearly
Almost.
40. Yeah, almost. I remember she tells a story when she first came across the Dharma, she realised that this was the path for her, this is the path that she could commit to, and she wanted to commit to because she saw value in it, there was something real in it. And not only did she do it for herself, but she spent many years at our retreat centre, ordination training retreat centre for women, training other women in the Dharma, in Buddhism, in practice, so they can practice. And now she lives in London, so she's sharing the Dharma here with us in London. So we're very lucky to have her light and her experience tonight. So, Vandanajyoti.
Thank you, Diana. Well, it's always really lovely to hear Dianatha rejoicing in somebody, even if it's me. So thank you for your generous words. And well, you know, there's obviously people outside the door, and I know that there's some people joining us online as well. So welcome to everybody, and indeed it is lovely seeing so many of you here. And I've been thinking about this theme for many years. I think there must be a little bit of a time delay, is there? Oh my goodness, so we'll have a sort of serial response to jokes. I don't know if there are any jokes. It's a lot of pages, and I hope it doesn't go on too long, but if it seems to be going on too long, I'll cut a bit. But yeah, I mean, I think what's most important is, like, here we sit together, including the online people, contemplating this kind of rather sort of special, mystical time of the year. It's the darkest time of the year, and you get a feeling that, you know, people have been conscious of their depths for millennia at this time of the year. You know, so we're standing on the edge of the darkest time, aren't we? And my friend was telling me today we've actually had the darkest 3 weeks of the year have passed now. But still it feels like there's some more delving to do. And I get that feeling this time of year. And certainly on our celebration of the new year coming, there's a sense in which we can again delve down into finding something new for ourselves. And I hope that this evening will give you the opportunity to do that. So it's a time of renewal as well as being in the dark, isn't it? So if you think about that as you listen to my talk, I'd be happy. That you're looking in yourself for something that you can take, almost like a sort of talisman, into the next phase. And I have really been conscious myself of how difficult this last few months has been for many, many people. And I was asking a wise old friend who's a druid and a bit mystical and all that. She said, oh, yes. There have been strong astrological changes going on. And so she went off on one about that. I'm not too sure if I know about it. I know some of you are nodding sagely and maybe you do know about it. But in any case, we live in troubled times, and that is a fact. And sometimes you think it's never been as troubled as this. But I can assure you it has. Here's a bit of Yeats, and I don't know, those of you who are good at accents might have noticed that I've got a little bit of a twang in there. So I come from an Irish family. What about this? This is W.B. Yeats. More than a century ago, things fall apart. The centre cannot hold. Mere anarchy is loosed upon the world. The blood-dimmed tide is loosed, and everywhere the ceremony of innocence is drowned. The best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity. Does that sound familiar? Unfortunately, I think it does. And now, today, we've been listening to the BBC Wreath lectures, some of us on Radio 4 on the BBC. And there's this fantastic speaker called Rutger Bregman. And if you haven't heard him, I really thoroughly recommend him. He's on those talks on Radio 4. He's appealing for a moral revolution, a revisioning of public ethics. It's profoundly disturbing and yet strangely encouraging to hear his description of our time. So, as often I'm left thinking, well, surely it can't go on like this. I'm thinking, surely someone is going to stop this. I'm thinking, surely we cannot let these people die. Surely there's some way forward to stop this killing, I'm thinking. And maybe some of you are thinking too. And we don't know what to do sometimes. So this guy, Rutger Bregman, who's a very, very good writer as well, he's written a fantastic book called Humankind and other books too. He sees our time as a time of monsters, where corruption, unseriousness and misinformation protect the power and profits of a tiny, repulsive, rich elite. We have a crisis in moral leadership. Maybe also you could say in this country too, but certainly elsewhere we most certainly have it. But his message, Rutger Bregman's message, is one of empowerment and optimism. Although there's lots of gloom and doom, he's trying to encourage us and build optimism. He quotes a marvellous anthropologist who I happen to know because we used to have to study Margaret Mead when we learnt to be teachers back in the old days. She says, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has." I'm going to read that again because it's so powerful. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. Individuals who are committed to the greater common good of humanity, often in opposition to powerful leaders who are barricaded behind complacency, richness, privilege, wealth. And I'm sort of asking myself, well, maybe that small group of committed individuals is right here, right now, and maybe I'm actually looking at them. I do hope so. And in the midst of all this, here you sit, whether you're out there online or here in the Shrine Room, and you've been drawn to something positive in this evening that's made you come here on New Year's Eve and spend time here. How marvellous that is. So something's drawn you, the positive message, maybe of Buddhism, maybe of some draw of meditation or friendship that you've found already. And I wanted just to draw your attention to how our founder, Sangharakshita, described Buddhist life. Buddhist life is a life of growth, he said. A life that searches to actualize its potential, he said. A life that searches out the meaning of its blood. Searching out the meaning of your blood. So, what do we need to do, individually and collectively, to make our lives more effective? Buddhism is life, and a Buddhist is awake to life. So I say, if not now, when? Can we find support to take us further, deeper towards waking up to how we can help ourselves and the world, without burnout or self-obsession or horrified anxiety or neurotic rescuing tactics, or the other problems that occur when we start to set off maybe on a bit of an individualistic path of changing things. So I'm sorry, this is quite serious stuff. It's not a bundle of jokes. But in my talk, I'm wanting to look at how we can live as awakening individuals so that we move together in the direction of an awakened life, following the compassionate guidance of the Buddha and developing curiosity and understanding of his teachings, the Dharma, and connecting with others in this journey, the Sangha. So here we have the three jewels: the Buddha, his teaching, the Dharma, the Sangha, us. And the history, the developed people of the history of Buddhism, of course. But here we are, a Sangha. Fantastic. Just waving to the online people and them next door. So what do we need? We need more compassionate wisdom. We need to develop our own potential, and we need ourselves to commit to becoming ever more effective. We need to go for refuge to the three jewels. So I didn't have to decide what the true refuge for 2026 was. I just need to say to you, we need to go for refuge to the three jewels. But the rest of the talk is about how we might do that. So it is a little bit of an interlude for a minute. So there'll be a couple of interludes. This interlude is about, well, what does a refuge mean? What is a refuge in terms of Buddhism? Well, we need support, and we also need a resting place. We need a haven. We need somewhere where we can relax. We need nourishment. We need enrichment. We need inspiration. We need joy. We need fun. And we also need contentment. We need to be able to relax. But I remember walking in here 37 years ago, as it happens. I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but that's exactly half of my life. You could do the sums, I'm sure. Anyway, what I saw when I walked in here was actually quite different from what it looks now, but I remember walking into that courtyard where the garden is, and it was still a really beautiful garden in those days. And actually, the Roman road was much more scutty to 37 years ago. It was a bit of a dive round here. I thought it was too scary a place to come and live. And nowadays it's rather nice, isn't it? So it seems like that to me anyway. But I came in here and it felt like a place of warmth and light. It was visually so pleasing just to come in off the road and to see the plants. But even more importantly, the people who I met when I opened the door were friendly and inviting and inclusive. And they said, yeah, you come back here. Yeah, you can learn to meditate here if you'd like to. Yeah, it's fine. And they were ordinary folks, if you know what I mean. They weren't wearing robes or feeling very distant or anything. We just felt, oh, probably these are people quite like me. And despite some doubts, I did come back. Despite sounding probably quite chirpy and cheeky in front of you all. I didn't talk to anybody very much for quite a few months. But they carried on saying hello to me, so I carried on coming back. So something seemed to be on offer that many of us have reported feeling when we come into a Triratna centre, whether it's in Berlin or whether it's in London or wherever it is. And for me, it was something, a respectful acknowledgement that I was a seeker that could be taken seriously. That I was in search of something and that they respected that. And that I was on the road to looking for something deeper. I had an inkling that there was something deeper, but I had absolutely no idea what it was. Then there was the offer of friendship, friendly connection. And the promise of a balance of support and challenge. And even though I was a tired, sceptical, withdrawn 37-year-old head of music from a comprehensive school, I did actually think I was getting the taste of what was to become Sangha, the spiritual community. So there was also something very observant in the people I met. They were watching, they were looking to see, what did I need, what did I want? And I had that feeling that my sense of having come home was being witnessed. Many people say when they come in here that they have a sense of having come home, which is quite strange, really. And actually it made me cry, so I was sort of standing there a bit tearful with the recognition. My heart was opened, that I'd stumbled on something which had the taste of an affirmation of something essential in me. Something which is probably the most important thing in my life. And again, I couldn't have quite defined it at that time. But there was creativity, there was beauty, and there was profundity. Somewhere I could take refuge. Now, this is a word that we sort of bandy about quite a lot in Buddhism, isn't it? Those of you who are regulars and have been around for a while, we say, oh yeah, going for refuge, you're going for refuge group, da-da-da-da. And we forget we're talking about a refuge, a place of rest, a place of inspiration. And that is what we want to try to find. Of course it is an external thing to some extent, but actually what's really happening is that we're finding it within ourselves. We're on a path of growing and a path of development. But that's not all. Before long, we realize that there's a bit of a tension in this journey. The Buddhist life is most certainly an individual path of personal development, of discovery and of freedom, a personal search. And that search is often fueled by suffering or frustration or meaninglessness. And you must all name what it is that's brought you here today. It's a path leading away from three great poisons. And I'll be saying a bit more about these three poisons a bit later in my talk. First of all, greed or grasping. Lots of ways we could talk about that. Secondly, hatred, ill will, aversion. And thirdly, delusion, ignorance, confusion, doubt, being stuck, So all of us, every single one, will have those three poisons live in our psyches right now. They are always all there, right to the point of enlightenment, so the Buddha told us. Anyway, what we're doing is we're looking for a path to lead away from these, or at least to lead into understanding and knowing how to live with them more effectively. And they're forces in the world that we see around us all the time, and they block our clarity of intention. But the dilemma is that we see very, very quickly that it's not simply a personal development plan, that there's an altruistic aspect to this path, and that we tread this path not only for our own benefit, but for the benefit of all beings. And there's a tension between these two aspects, especially to begin with. I think the other night somebody was asking a question about this. Well, how can it be? Wouldn't it be easier just to get on with the business of developing ourselves personally and becoming more effective, becoming a better individual in the world, And you could get through the battle against oppression and the ills of society and become a bigger, better version of who I am, better able to deal with them, wiser, kinder, nicer. Would that not be enough? Well, this is where we start to unravel the big mystery of Buddhist life. No, it's not enough. You can't do it alone. And I want to just look for a little while about why that is. Why is it that we can't do it alone? I'm going to talk about a little bit of Buddhist theory here now. The 3 lakshanas, the 3 marks of reality, the 3 marks of what life in the world is all about. And the Buddha to be had seen this in his wanderings before enlightenment, that humankind was pursuing goals which led people round and round in an ever-turning wheel of suffering and pain. Why? Because we humans build attachments to things that do not last. Now, we heard about this already from Dayanatha in his introduction to the meditation, I expect you remember. He said things don't last. And not only do we sort of know they don't last, but we delude ourselves in craving to stay with them. And we're craving things that are clearly impermanent and insubstantial when you look at them in depth. But the thing is that we and our minds are just like that. We're also impermanent and insubstantial. And as somebody said last Monday when I was talking about this, said, "Oh my goodness, that means we're going to die." And I was able to say, yep, that is surely true. Hopefully not for many decades. I don't know if he's here or maybe he's outside still. But we're all subject to birth and aging and death, sorrow, lamentation, and all that a conditioned existence brings. But we see that things arise, stay for a while, and cease in dependence on a whole set of very, very complicated conditions that precede them. But we also see that we and all things become the conditions for the next arising, staying for a while and ceasing. So we are in this cycle of becoming, endlessly arising, endlessly staying for a while, and endlessly dying away. Everything in your experience is going to be like that. But our delusion makes us try and stop the wheel and hang on in there, and of course you can't do that. We are deluded to the point that we will try to keep on doing that. We'll try and stop it. Stop right here. Let's keep this like it is. It's really good for now. Oops. No, it won't stay long. And it certainly doesn't offer us a safe refuge. So if it's the only thing that you go away from this talk remembering, that's fine. Remember, things arise, stay for a while, and then fade away. And that includes me, you, and everything around us. The Buddha saw this, saw it very clearly, and what did he do? The Buddha to be shaved off his hair and beard, left his privileged palace life, and went forth from his home life into homelessness. Eventually, searching for years, he sat down under the Bodhi tree, vowing not to move from his seat until he had found the path leading to wisdom and light, till he gained full and perfect enlightenment. That's what we're talking about here. Enlightenment is seeing right to the heart, right to the key, right to the core of this truth, that things are impermanent and subject to change, and that includes us. But it's not all gloom and doom. It is not all gloom and doom. So this is another little interlude now. I'm going to sing you a song, right? This is just 2 lines of text from a fantastic bit of old Buddhist writing, thousands of years old, called the Ratnaguna Samchagatha, for those of you who like to know the names of things. Call forth as much as you can of love, of respect and of faith. Remove the obstructing defilements and clear away all your taints. Listen to the perfect wisdom of the gentle Buddhas, taught for the weal of the world, For heroic spirits intended, call forth as much as you can of love, of respect, and of faith. And the reason I thought to sing you that song was because it points to the fact that it's difficult to follow this path, but there's a lot of joy in it. And I was reminded of an old friend called Diapakshini. Hello Diapakshini, if you happen to be watching. She lives in Kent. And I remember her singing that song. I didn't write the words, I wrote the tune of that. And she used to love to sing it, so she maybe still does sing in it. But I remember when I met her, and it was in 1988, and we were, I'll tell you this, it's a secret, we were in the smoking porch on the battle retreat, which was what used to happen before that. Lots and lots of people from the LBC are on retreat in Adistana right now on the winter retreat. Well, it used to happen in a place called Battle, which is in Kent, and we stayed in this really repulsive old public school. The beds were about the most uncomfortable thing you could ever possibly imagine. Horsehair mattresses, I tell you, with kind of springs sticking up through them. It wasn't comfortable, but it was the most extraordinary experience. Having come through the gates of here just a few weeks beforehand, and off I went on the battle retreat. It's in Battle, it wasn't a battle, but Anyway, before very long, there was a bit of a coterie that used to meet in that smoking porch. And one of them was Diapakshini, before she was Diapakshini, and before I was Vandanajyoti, long time before. And we just sort of hit it off. And she's the sort of person I'd never have probably got to know ever, because she was from a different kind of background to me. She was short, she was sassy, she was a good mountaineer, she loved dancing, and I was, tall and a musician and thought of myself. I don't need to go into that right now. Anyway, she got cross because I didn't like her trousers once, I remember that. Actually. The thing is, I realised that I was starting pretty well straight away to build a new kind of friendship. This is a friendship that was really sustaining, and I was learning things through this kind of friendship, because people would say, "What do you really mean when you say that?" Things like that. Ooh, nobody's ever asked me that before, not except if they were my, lover. That was the only time I had intimate conversations with anybody, really. And that kind of level of friendship where you're deeply investigating what's happening in your life was something quite new to me, especially with women, actually, because I was brought up, went to college and stuff with a load of musicians who at that time were mostly men. So it was very new for me to come into close connection with people of my own gender. And actually it was quite challenging. I learnt so much from that. And Diapakshini became a really, really close friend. For many years we were on the Tuesday class, which was led by Maitreyi, who's sitting here. And we'd turn up every Tuesday, and she was a social worker, and she'd zoom up from where she was, and I was a teacher, and I'd zoom up from wherever I was, and we'd go to have chips and egg in the cafe down the road, which still was called the Burger Bar at that stage. And then we'd come to the Tuesday class meeting. And there's something about it, I know some of you know this already, just being asked to help, to ask to collect up the cups, ask to, whether you'd come and be on the team of a class, being included, opting in, finding a way to be alongside other people who are like you on a search. There's something really majestic about that. But the other side of it, as well as that sense of camaraderie and companionship, is that there was also a challenge. Because sometimes they'd say, "I don't really think you're facing up to something here." and you'd think, oh no, they can see right through me. And that would be uncomfortable to begin with. But then you sort of find an optimism and a way of realizing that people are on your side. That what everybody wants for each other in this great game is for us to grow and develop and to become clearer about who we really are and what we really need. And that is the beginning of the Sangha Jewel. Well, in my life, lots of other friendships began to develop. And my very good friend Sarika is here sitting at the back. So after a few years, what happened? Well, after we developed the South London Mitra group, which we called LAMP, because it was Liz, Aideen, Madeline and Paulette. LAMP. We actually decided we were going to go and live in a community. And people think, oh, that must be so nice. And of course it is really, really lovely. But you have to realise living in a community involves all those other things as well. Different needs, tendencies, views, habits, different shopping, people eating my yogurt, not cleaning the bathroom, but meditating every morning together and checking in and watching each other's processes develop. And becoming the conditions for each other to grow, as well as having daft, crazy singing and dancing parties on community night. When you suddenly realise that one of the most straight-laced members of our community was actually a fantastic dancer. And not only that, but she had hidden in her cupboard a Charleston dress and high-heeled shoes, and she suddenly came down and started dancing. We didn't even know. Do you remember that? Yeah, she does. It wasn't Sarika, by the way, it was another friend. She's quite good at dancing as well, I have to say. Anyway, so we've got this thing. This is the Sangha Jewel I'm trying to tell you about here. It's where you're engaged in deepening your own practice alongside friends who you know are deepening theirs. There is pain, there is misunderstanding, there is crying, there is suffering and difficulty, but there's also finding the courage to overcome what needs to be overcome in yourself so you can grow. And that is the most wonderful thing to do in life, isn't it? For me, I think what I really had to overcome, and still struggle sometimes, is my own inability to speak out when things need to be said. When I need to say to somebody, actually, I'm not comfortable about that. And all the subterfuges and strategies that we develop in order to protect ourselves and stay silent, when actually what we need to do is to speak. Does that sound familiar to anybody? A few nods I can see here. Any nods back there? Oops. Anyway, so I've been talking about the Sangha Jewel, which for me was a big challenge, but the most rewarding and extraordinary journey to be involved in. So I want to say a little bit about the Dharma Jewel now. The Dharma Jewel, the teaching of the Buddha, what we're searching for through, coming to a class or going to a study group or whatever, searching for understanding of the Buddha's teaching. And actually I have to confess, for the first few years I really couldn't get it. I kept saying, well, what is the Dharma? And people would say, oh, I don't know, what are you talking about? I feel that it's really straightforward, but I couldn't get it. And then one day I got it. The great discovery. The great discovery is what I've already told you. Everything's in the process of flux. Everything is transient in this conditioned universe. Everything changes, and that includes pain, suffering, joy, pleasure. Everything changes. And that includes my pleasure and the pleasure I experience in the beauty of music and the beauty of the earth and the sky, my skin, my body, my life, and yours. So there's pain, but there's also joy in reflecting on this truth, and it's very, very important that we hold that in mind. At the moment, just to say, I spend quite a lot of time with my 99-year-old mother, who's still living in her own house, but has begun in the last few months to descend, I have to use that word, into dementia. So this is a person who right until her 99th year was completely on the ball, physically able and independent. And suddenly something's happened, and just to see that process of the aging mind makes me appreciate so profoundly what it is we have in terms of an alive mind, and how important it is we come to terms with these things that I'm talking about. And that when we see ourselves going down the road of yet more deluded behaviours, despite our best intentions, we try to do something about it. So, tempers are lost, we get frustrated, we speak in ways that cause hurt. We fail to understand what's needed. We speak in ways that protect and defend ourselves, even though we know we just have to say, I'm really sorry I did that. So why do we do that? Why can't we be open and honest enough to own up to what's going on for us? Well, we can. And not only that, we really must. We can and we must. And it's here that the Dharma teaches us how really the benefit for being truthful to ourselves is so massive. If I'm true to me, then I'm actually more likely to be able to be true to you. I could go into why it is that we have this thing, but let me just shortcut it. I won't read my notes and I can say it very, very quickly. It's almost like we are set up in our psyches, as animals are, to defend ourselves and to protect ourselves. That is a basic, like Maslow's hierarchy of needs and stuff. We will seek to propagate our species. But the big business is that human beings have another skill that's added on top of that. We have reflexive self-awareness in a way that my lovely, friendly dogs do not have. It's not my dogs, my friends' dogs, but they feel like they're mine. Those that my friend's cat does not have it. They have intention and sort of will and all that stuff, but they cannot reflect on what they do. They cannot see that they make an impact in the world. They don't know that, but we do know it. Everything has an impact. This, if you like, is the law of karma for those of you who like those kind of words. We know that actions have consequences, and we know that they make the conditions for the next arising. Now, look, this is really important. Everything I do or say or think will affect something or someone else. It's powerful. Everything. There is no secret corner or hiding place. Everything I do, say, or think has an effect somewhere. There are no private moments away from this truth. We are so intimately intermeshed with all life that there is no place that this effect does not reach. Do you see what I'm saying? There isn't any hiding place. You might want to find one, but you can't find it. Life can no longer simply be an individual matter once you take this on. I must take individual responsibility for my ethical action. I'm going to say that again. I must, and so must you, take individual responsibility for our ethical action. We can and we must. So this is a profound and serious realization. How can we continue to blame and bear grudges without trying to address them with each other? How can we? We must take responsibility. Well, I love ethics. It's clear to me why ethical action is so important a part of a Buddhist life. Maybe ethics is a refuge. it articulates the mystery of interconnectedness and how we become the conditions for each other's growth. Ethics is relational, our teacher says, a vital mutual responsiveness on the basis of a common ideal. A vital mutual responsiveness on the basis of a common ideal. And there's more I could say about that, but I'm going to skip a bit. So you see, this is, when we start to talk about ethics, we're talking about the Dharma jewel, we're talking about the basis of what the Dharma really is, this interconnectedness. But we're also talking about the Sangha jewel, doing it together, because we're relational with each other. We're in relationship with each other as part of the Sangha. But we also find ourselves facing our own nature. So it comes back to that thing. It's all about me. I have to take individual responsibility. But I'm doing so in connection with you taking individual responsibility. And us therefore being in relationship. It's like a kind of beautiful creative dance. We cannot do it alone. We need each other's witnessing. We need each other's companionship and each other's wisdom. That's in a way why the practice of the metta bhavana is so important. What we're needing to do is to find more kindness, because we're all in this together. We're in this mess, if you like. We will all fall flat on our faces sometime. We need to see, kindness is the order of the day. I don't mean a soppy, wishy-washy kind of kindness. I mean that courage for heroic spirits intended that was in that little song that I sang. So if in doubt, follow the precepts. If in doubt, follow the precepts. You don't know what the precepts are, keep coming to the Buddhist Centre till you find them. And to be ready to acknowledge where in your experience the three big poisons are: greed, aversion, delusion. So I'm going to say a little bit about those, but very briefly. So craving. What are we doing when we're craving? Well, remember, we're in this situation where you're doing very well, by the way. You're staying awake. At least the ones that I can see in here, they're staying awake. Don't know about you lot. You may have dozed off and gone to make a cup of tea. I don't blame you. But no, this is really important. What are we doing when we let ourselves go into grasping and craving? Well, I'll tell you what we're doing. Some little niggle has happened. Some little suffering inside has happened. And we suddenly feel like we're lacking something. Either we're lacking something in ourselves, I'm not good enough, or that person didn't do what I thought they were going to do, and now I'm left without the support of what they said they were going to bring. So it'll either be internal or it'll be external, but there's something lacking. And so we think, if I just had that, that would make it better. And it might be, a new Aston Martin, or a new hedge, or I don't know, whatever turns you on. Or just somebody being a bit nice to me. So we're trying to find out, what's going on just behind the moment when I reached out and grasped for that. I mean, I used to smoke. It was great talking about this when I was a smoker because, I told you that already because I met Dipakshini in the smoking porch. But, it was great. You could just have, but sometimes dissatisfaction would hit when I was halfway through a cigarette and I'd find myself lighting up another one, but I'd already got one. Oh dear, it's a terrible habit. Anyway, so there's a lovely... I won't say that now. So a couple of words about aversion. It's pretty similar, if you think about it. Aversion and ill will and resentment, those things. They're the other side of craving, aren't they? So in one way, you're reaching out to get something that you think will make you feel better. And in the aversion side, you're pushing away something without which you might feel better. But in both cases, what we're really doing is we're just seeking to bolster up our sense of self. Actually, it'd probably be much easier in the long run if we could just acknowledge more about who we are and stop trying to bolster it up. We're trying to bolster it up because it's so horrible to realise that it's always changing anyway. So coming to that realisation is the heart of the Dharma for me. Anyway, just to read you one lovely quote from my teacher Bhante Sangrakshita. We are practicing to keep our minds free from feelings of anger and hatred as we move from self-obsession towards treating others in a way that does not harm them but benefits them. Putting ourselves in the other person's shoes. That's so sweet, isn't it? Simple. How to put yourself in another person's shoes without losing a sense of your own identity. Okay, to finish up with, I want to say something about the Buddha jewel. And for me, this is, it's mysterious. And I think for all of us, we need to find the mystery. And I've told you already, I'm very committed to music, and I love making music and playing it, listening particularly. I know that through my pursuit of music in the various ways I do it, I actually find myself in a different state of mind. It's a beautiful description of it. It excites me, so I find myself transported. I'm transported beyond words and reasoning. Something beautiful and sublime is revealed. And the great artists talk about this. There's a great quote of James Joyce where he talks about aesthetic arrest, where you're suddenly out of yourself. You're no longer in your own normal, everyday condition of mind. There's a few nods here. That's fantastic. So you just, I mean, it can happen for all sorts of reasons. I remember just walking down a path before I knew anything about Buddhism, when I was a young woman walking down a path, and suddenly I just saw light on a tree in a way that made me stop completely still. It's like the world had become something totally different for a moment. But those moments are what the Buddha jewel is really. Intense and amazing beauty, radiance, something from outside the ordinary, sublime, inspiring awe, respect, devotion. I mean, even the Buddha searched for something that he could revere. Just after his enlightenment, he thought, there's no being in the world that knows this truth like I know it. And he said, that's not right for me. And then he suddenly looked around and he thought, I can revere the Buddha principle in the universe. So the Buddha, coming as he did, the historical Buddha, could revere the Buddha principle, could revere the Dharma, as has been passed from all Buddhas of past and present, Buddhas of future time, all looking and finding this Buddha principle in the universe. So it transcends everydayness and allows us to reach for the stars. In a way, I don't really want to say too much about the Buddha principle, because what I would really love is that you go away from this talk and find out what is it that engages your emotions and nourishes you and takes you to that deeper, majestic, inexpressible place where you're moved outside your normal sense of awareness into something rich and strange. And from there, you can find pointers that take you to deeper meaning and deeper truth. It might be just spending more time alone. It might be reading more poetry, like it was lovely hearing that Robert Frost poem just that you read. I really enjoyed it. These woods are dark. These woods were dark and deep. But I have promises to keep. Oh, for goodness sake. And miles to go before I sleep. It's like, oh yes, everyday life will just take over. But that moment when he noticed the dark depth of the wood. That's what we need to find. But as I've said already, you're not going to find that alone. You need to communicate it. You need to have it witnessed. You need to be with like-minded people where you take the courage to express those sensitive, refined aspects of your own character and nature. Where you can rise above yourself, find the experience that lifts you out of yourself, and where you can identify with others and put yourself in their shoes. So I'm going to finish up now, and just to read you one last quote. And this is where you need to sort of come into truth with yourself and what you need, where you need to commit yourself to looking for this refuge of magnificent awe and mystery, this refuge of the depth of the teaching and the refuge of coming into connection with each other. So your own commitment, that's what I'm talking about. Your commitment to go for refuge to the three jewels. It might have been Goethe who said this, but it might have been somebody else, some Scottish person on a Himalayan expedition. We're not quite sure. Anyway, this is what they said. Until one is committed, there is hesitancy, the chance to draw back. The moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. All sorts of things occur to help one that would never otherwise have occurred. Boldness has genius, power and magic in it. Whatever you can do or dream you can do, begin it now. Thank you.
Wow, Vandanajyoti, that was really fantastic. I really appreciated that. I enjoyed that. I find you're very disarming. So I think we're getting something, then we get something else. You know, so your words really sort of land home. And I don't know, for me, I won't try to sum up the whole thing, but I think particularly when you were talking about courage, moral courage, and you brought in ethics there, I think that's saying the things that are uncomfortable that we have to say, that we know we need to say for our own lives and for the world is so important, and comes from a commitment to an ideal. I think you're talking about an ideal that's true. It allows us then to say what's real. Once we're committed to what's real, we can then say what's real. And I think you've really exemplified that and brought that out for us, and encouraged us to sort of reflect and think that through. Perfect for our resolutions later. So just want to say thank you again. Let's give Vandanajyoti very good. So I'll just tell us what's coming up next on the programme. So next is our snack break. If you've brought snacks, then thank you very much. If you want to go out to the shop and get any more, you're very welcome to. The shop's next door, and then we can just line the tea bar with snacks, and if you want, and you can eat snacks and refresh ourselves. Then at 10:30, we've got a treat for you. We've got our house band, our ready-made house band, will be sharing some of their musical offerings with us. And I was in rehearsals with them today. It's very, very beautiful and moving music. So hopefully that will just help open our hearts and help us relax a bit in that space. That's building up to 11 o'clock, which is where we'll start the evening rituals, which lead us up to midnight. Okay, and then we'll say when we get, and then for that we'll split off